And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce four wonderful women who are responsible for this spectacular film. First is writer-director Lorene Scafaria, producer Joy Gorman Wettels, and the two stars of the film, Rose Byrne and Susan Sarandon. Thank you guys so much for being here. I know you've been on a crazy press tour. You had a Tribeca opening, I believe, last night. Is that right? But Lorene, I wanted to start with you because this is such a personal film for you, and it's been a long time coming in some ways. And so, could you just give us a little background on the origin story of the Meddler?
It's based on my mom, my meddling mom, who is very sweet, but can drive me crazy sometimes. But she moved from New Jersey to Los Angeles to be close to me after my dad passed away, and many phone calls later, she basically moved to this place across the street from an Apple store, got an iPhone, and then started calling me on it a lot. Just many voicemails later, I had enough material to write a screenplay about her. That's really the origin.
Well, yeah, I mean, that brings me to you, Susan. There's such a specificity to the way you play the role, and I know that some of that's in writing, but I think some of it is also in the performance. So it does feel like you have a deep connection to this particular character. Do you feel that?
Well, she was very specific, and I mean, it's always the actor's job to try to make a character as specific as possible so it becomes universal. And I was wearing her clothing, I was carrying her bag. She did the first 5 minutes of the movie as a sizzle reel that Lorene sent to me, so I even saw her do my part, or me do her part. But, at the end of the day, I think that people go through a change of relationship. If you love someone very much and you've spent a lot of time loving them and trying to do things for them and nurturing them, whether it's a husband that dies or a divorce or a boyfriend that you break up with, especially women, I really love loving somebody. That's one of my favorite things to do, is try to make their life more fun. I'm missing that right now, by the way, if anybody has any ideas. So when it comes time to try to, refocus that, or when your kids leave home and you've been doing everything and worrying about them and everything, then what do you do with that energy? And so she, in the midst of her grieving, she follows the daughter out and just delivers just way too many bagels and kind of gets involved in anybody's life who comes by. But I think it's a really nice way to cope. I mean, I think if everybody erred on the side of being too generous and giving, it would be besides drinking or prescription drugs. I think it's a very good choice. And so I think everybody goes through periods of being lonely. I find Sundays for me are particularly disturbing sometimes. I don't know why. If it's the residual, school is tomorrow, or if it's just like everyone looks so fucking happy on Sunday that I get upset.
The joggers you see out together.
I just resent it sometimes. And so I get it, and I think everybody goes through that. And I think when you watch the movie, that's why it's appealed to so many different kinds of people, and people laugh because, your moms just want you to be happy. They just want you to be safe. They just want you to have a job that's actually going to have a future, and that usually doesn't correspond with any of your plans. So, but they want that for you, and it's hard just to sit back and watch your kids be miserable or make mistakes or whatever. So sometimes maybe you meddle a little much.
Rose, you and Susan and Laurie and Marnie have such a really textured, credible relationship in the film. Is that something that you really have to work for on set, or was it just immediate when you met Susan, or how did that work? Establishing that really believable bond.
We actually knew each other prior to the film, which was lucky. We have a mutual friend in common, so that's great to sort of break the ice. But the script was so great. You're only as good as your writing. and the script from the first moment I read it, I was like, this is Susan saying so specific to Lorene's experience and what she went through grieving her dad and this new relationship with her mother moving out to LA. So it was just about trying to get out of the script's way and bringing it to life, and just, you know, working with the incredible Susan Sarandon. I was just, you know, so lucky to be having scenes with her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it really, you know, whatever Bond it is, it really shows. Joy, as a producer, what are the challenges of getting a movie like this, you know, seen, made, and are these the kind of projects that you seek out?
You know, I think that as much as women keep proving that we are so valuable at the box office and that women are going to these movies when they are made, there is a disconnect between the financing entities and the agents sometimes about seeing this as a real business opportunity. And so for us, we knew that in order to make this movie true to Lorene's vision and truly have this be a character study of Marnie and not a love story with the, you know, zipper being a larger character or a full two-hander like Postcards from the Edge, or, you know, that we had to make it for a much smaller budget. And we got a lot of help. We got Apple's help.
Tell them what that budget was. Tell them how many days and
23 days and $3.4 million.
Which is insane. But
and
the movie looks
I think if
like,
this was a bunch of 40-year-old men, it would be $40 million in 4,000 days. So, you know.
Right.
No, we got lucky. I mean, we have an incredible cast. I think that just always helps. I mean, it was so hard to get made before Susan came on board. That's actually the truth, is that people didn't know what to make of it. And once Susan came on board, I think people realized, obviously, not only her value, but that, you know, she's an incredible draw for other actors. All these incredible people wanted to work with her.
Made lunch for everybody every day, so that saved money.
This is your first real big lead role in a little while, and I'm curious, was that something conscious on your part? Were you just waiting for the right big project?
I just wanted to play lots of little parts for a long time.
Well, I was going to...
No, I had some other offer. I mean, there have been some other major parts that have come my way, but I really felt like I didn't want to... didn't want to die in a film, help someone die, have Alzheimer's, you know, or some other debilitating disease, and so I just wasn't up for that at the moment. So this one, I just was surprised when I read the script. There were a lot of twists and turns, and I laughed, and it really moved me, and so I was. So we tried to get it going. It was really a gift, and yeah, I knew it was really fun to do.
And now, Rose, you've recently had a lot of success in comedy, but I think that American audiences at least first kind of got to know you on things like Damages and in Danny Boyle's Sunshine, you know, dramatic things. Is that something, a balance that you like to strike in your career, or do you just kind of pick whatever project it is regardless of genre or style?
I feel like as an actor, the more diverse stuff that you can do or that comes your way is the better. So it keeps you more challenged and interested and scared and everything. And then that's like what comes your way and then what doesn't. So it's all sort of a crapshoot, really. But yeah, I agree tonally. This is my favorite sort of film to watch and to do, because I mean, it comes from the same place. I think as an actor, that, you know, the stakes have to be really high for it to be funny, and for the stakes and when the stakes are high, it's dramatic. You know, there's something to be lost and something to be gained. So it's sort of from the same wellspring in a way. And this film is lovely because, as Susan said, it surprises you with really beautiful moments that you kind of catch your breath and you're laughing and then you're kind of crying, which, you know, I saw the film last night on the big screen for the first time, and by the end it totally swept me up and I was sort of in floods of tears, which is, you know, and I'm not a big...
And I just want to say that she has to do like the X Games of acting. She has to go scenes that are angry to, you know, nervous to crying to laughing to angry again, and like all in one take. And that is not easy. And to have somebody that's so funny and that still has this emotional, you know, accessibility, there are very few. I mean, Melissa McCarthy's somebody who can do that. But, you know, that's really special. And we lucked out with Rose because we didn't have time to do a lot of takes or.
Which is good sometimes too,
Yeah,
right? Isn't it?
can-
Because you
if
just have to
can
jump
do it,
in.
Yeah,
and
but we
can't
weren't
think
like
about
we had
it.
no dressing rooms. We weren't going to our trailers to mood up for a half an hour before we had to go into the scene or something, right? It was like just ready to rock and roll right away. And so, I was so grateful to have her because she has to drive a lot of those scenes. I just get to react, which is, such a lazy ass thing to be doing. But she was fabulous.
Yeah. And
What you'll see when you see it.
which you all will. And Lorene, was this process for you? I mean, I'm sure there was the risk of kind of picking at old wounds, or not even that old, really. There was pretty recent stuff for you.
It wasn't that painful. It feels like closure in this, certainly in a sense, but it was a treat, and we just got to. I mean, I love my mom. She cracks me up. So seeing Susan do any version of that just struck me every single day. So we just had too much fun, and I mean,
Tell
there
them
were.
what she said about Daddy.
Oh, well, she loving that. Well, yeah, okay. So, I mean, when my mom knew that Susan was going to play her, of course she was dying and so excited about it. But she was just like, oh my God, Daddy would have loved to be married to Susan Sarandon. That just would have floored him. So, we got to put Susan's head on my mom's body for certain pictures. And yeah, she's posing next to my father. It's killing everyone. Yeah, it's great.
A whole range of emotions, and yeah. I wanted to ask you guys, since maybe you specifically, Susan, because we're in an Apple store, what has your experience been like adapting to this kind of onslaught of technology? I mean, do you kind of welcome all the new things?
My assistant will load. Have you seen Mr. Robot? Because I love that show, and Nathan For You, all these different weird shows that my youngest shows me, and then he'll load them onto his iPad or something, and I take that on a plane. And scripts I have to write on, so I haven't really started loading onto anything. But that's the extent of my...
We do have a clip that we wanted to show you guys, just a little teaser. And that's the great Jason Ritter in the clip. Yeah, he's fantastic too. Okay, are we ready for audience questions? Yeah.
This is for Lorena. Has your mother seen the movie, and what does she think of Susan playing her?
It's her favorite movie, and she loves the subject matter, and she's over the moon about Susan. She thinks, oh my God, we should all be so lucky to look like Susan. So she is very, she's also, I think, really happy that it's a comedy. Even though it's about sad stuff that we've been through, of course, it's actually, at its core a comedy, and Susan is incredibly funny. And she nailed her, really. I mean, she, of course, brought a lot to the character. It's not exactly my mother, but it's pretty damn much my mother. Yeah, it's close.
What research went into preparing for this role, and techniques possibly like Stanislavski or Meisner, anybody that you guys really, that's where you go to get prepared for a role?
Shoot me, I never studied acting. Sorry. And I had a daughter just to prepare for this part.
I'm sure you get a lot of scripts, Susan and Rose both. How do you determine which ones to even read?
I'd want to be moved. I want to, in some way, and if it's a small part, which I don't mind doing at all, as long as she affects the, somehow affects the piece, the story, the bigger piece. I'm going to be doing something in July in Canada, actually, playing Kit Harington's mom. So he's still alive, and in Canada. And but it's a small, but it's a concentrated. They're good scenes. It's a very interesting director. It's a lot of nice other people that are, and it's 2 weeks I can spare, so I'll do something like that, or I'll do a little part. John Turturro wants me to do something that's, again, a very weird, non-commercial script, but if it's something that's different, I want something that's brave, that scares me. I want something that I haven't done before. And, it's easier now that my kids, that I'm not going with the school schedule. Now that they're out of the house, I have a little more freedom to travel and to do, you know, you're lugging your baby around now, so that's going to all start for you. But, you know, and I don't want to do something that links sex and violence. I mean, there's certain things that I'm not interested in doing, but I want to know I usually ask the director why they want to make it. And surprisingly, sometimes they don't have an answer. That's not a good sign. But, you know, I want to be part of something that everybody's pulling to. So there's a lot of factors, you know, and it seems that if you can get paid, that's also really good. You know, where it shoots, you know, there's a lot of things that go into it. But this was a no-brainer. We just had to try to hope that we could assemble like-minded people, really.
Hi, my name is Jeanette. This question is for Rose. You've been in many successful roles as an American actress, and I was just wondering, how difficult is it for you to put on an American accent? Is it something that you're constantly rehearsing to get the accent correct?
You don't think I sound American right now? No? Not at all? No? It's my Australian accent. We have so much American television in Australia, so you get really used to the sound of it. And then I did a television show for 5 seasons, and so that was really drilled it into me. And sometimes it's hard if I've got to get really angry. Sometimes in these scenes where I was very angry, I could hear it coming up. But I enjoy it now. I can you know, it's just a discipline kind of thing. But yeah, people are fascinated by it. They always are just like, oh my God, how do you do that? They're like, really, really? It's like, that never gets old, that question. I guess it is quite weird if you meet someone and they've really talked differently. It's like, whoa.
I think the cadence is sometimes where people are off. They can get the pronunciations, but they hold on to the cadence from the other language. Yeah. I remember when we were doing Thelma and Louise, and poor Harvey Keitel, he's just too much Harvey Keitel. He could not even if he could kind of get some southern sounds, he still was just so New York. You know, there was no way to get that out of him. He just so difficult. And it's the cadence, I think.
Great.
You know, if you get the cadence and the pronunciation, which you have really well. Yeah.
Yeah, to be able to be relaxed and do it is harder, I guess. Harder.
Hi, I'm a screenwriter, and I've been told my face several times by male producers that women aren't as funny as guys when I've been trying to like gender swap characters and so on, and they've been telling me like, you can't do it because men are so much funnier.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, really horrible. And still I hear, like you can read in commentaries after YouTube trailers and so on that like women aren't as funny as guys. Still, do you think we're ever gonna pass this?
I mean, I hope we already have with people like Rose and Melissa McCarthy. I mean, people that Susan has named, Amy Schumer.
Cecily Strong, who's in our movie. I mean,
yeah, I'd like to think that we've already proved them wrong.
He must be laughing all the way as he watches them go to the bank with all these
yeah.
movies that are making a fortune that are all women and written by women, and all the TV shows that are now hits that are. I mean, I think that's the area where actually women have made the biggest step forward is in comedy and being able. Amy Schumer, I mean, Girls, so many of these shows that are really, really successful, making a lot of money. So he's obviously an idiot.
But we also need the freedom to laugh at ourselves. You know, I think that's also been something that, you know, a certain, I don't know, system wants us to be very, I don't know, serious about it. You know, to feel like we're just all strong characters. There's so many strong characters, and, you know, we should be allowed to be vulnerable and flawed and messed up and obviously funny and make fun of ourselves. And
Cal Burnett, Lucille Ball. I mean, there's so many people that were years and years and years on TV doing, you know, all kinds of breakthrough stand-up comedy, really skit comedy for, you know, a tradition of that. So, and I think that I'm so proud of all the breakthroughs that all these women have done in writing these movies and getting them done. And Paul Feig, is that his name? Yeah, who's really championed all these women.
Don't listen to that asshole.
Yeah, just there'll be fewer and fewer of him as more people go to see movies like this, so don't listen to him.
He's just really scared. I think he's frightened, and maybe someone didn't laugh at his jokes. That might be what happened.
Okay, thank you guys so much for doing
Thank
this.
you
Thank you
all.
for being here.
Thank you.
Focus that. Or when your kids leave home and you've been doing everything and worrying about them and everything, then what do you do with that energy? And so she, in the midst of her grieving, she follows the daughter out and just delivers just way too many bagels and kind of gets involved in anybody's life who comes by. But I think it's a really nice way to cope. I mean, I think if everybody erred on the side of being too generous and giving, it would be other besides drinking or. But you know, at the end of the day, I think that people go through a change of relationship. If you've loved someone very much and you've spent a lot of time loving them and trying to do things for them and nurturing them, whether it's a husband that dies or a divorce or a boyfriend that you break up with, especially women, you know, I really love loving somebody. That's one of my favorite things to do, is try to make their life more fun. I'm missing that right now, by the way, if anybody has any ideas. So when it comes time to try to, you know, refocus.
And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce 4 wonderful women who are responsible for this spectacular film. First is writer-director Lorene Scafaria, producer Joy Gorman Wettels, and the 2 stars of the film, Rose Byrne and Susan Sarandon. Thank you guys so much for being here. I know you've been on a crazy press tour. You were at a Tribeca opening, I believe, last night. Is that right? But Lorene, I wanted to start with you because this is such a personal film for you, and it's been a long time coming in some ways. And so, could you just give us a little background on the origin story of the Meddler?
It's based on my mom, my meddling mom, who is very sweet, but can drive me crazy sometimes. But she moved from New Jersey to Los Angeles to be close to me after my dad passed away, and you know, many phone calls later, she basically moved to this place across the street from an Apple store, got an iPhone, and then started calling me on it a lot. Just many voicemails later, I had enough material to write a screenplay about her. That's really the origin.
Well, yeah, I mean, that brings me to you, Susan. There's such a specificity to the way you play the role, and I know that some of that's in writing, but I think some of it is also in the performance. So it does feel like you have a deep connection to this particular character. Do you feel that?
Well, she was very specific, and I mean, it's always the actor's job to try to make a character as specific as possible so it becomes universal. And I was wearing her clothing, I was carrying her bag. She did the first 5 minutes of the movie as a sizzle reel that Lorene sent to me, so I even saw her do my part, or me do her part.